Okay, this was over in a flash, but we actually took a half an hour of break for biological needs. I ate some pasta and TK also rested a bit. So now we're back with the amazing lost Anatolian family of Indo-European languages. So we went through these in detail and press F to pay your respects for all these extinct languages. And let us know in the comments if a genie appeared and in his hand the genie had a gun and he said, you have to choose one of these languages to speak for the rest of your life or I'm going to shoot you dead. Which one would you choose? I think I would sound Pisidian just because the name sounds cool. How about you, TK?
I would choose Luwian because, as we will see later, that was actually the most commonly spoken one.
Ah, smart. Once again, you make a useful decision while I make one based on arbitrary cool stuff. Okay, let's go on then.
So, uh, yeah, and with that, we enter finally probably the centerpiece of this video, the
Da
Hittite,
da da da.
the Hittite Empire, which it's fascinating for many, many reasons. One of them is that for many years, this genuinely was a lost civilization.
Mm-hmm. Like
Because
nobody knew about anything or how.
the ancient Greeks had already forgotten that this existed, so they didn't know that there was this ancient empire in Anatolia. And the Egyptian and the Syrian sources that do mention them, they have gone unnoticed for a long time. And there's only a few references to them in the Bible, and it's debatable if they even mean the Hittite Empire or just Hittitic people. So until the 1800s, it was not known that this civilization had once existed.
Oh, and it's like, I mean, it's kind of credit to archaeology's success. Everybody likes to imagine like ancient knowledge that was lost, but here we have gained something that the ancients themselves had forgotten. So, sometimes there are good news too. And it's like a massive polity too. Like it's not just like one isolated city-state either, right?
Yeah, I will show you some maps later of the Hittite New Kingdom, but right now this is the Old Kingdom. Like similar to Egypt, the Hittite history is divided into an Old, Middle, and New Kingdom. And so the Hittites, as we saw before, they start appearing as a distinct ethnicity in these Assyrian tablets and Karums.
Yeah.
And they themselves called themselves Mursili, those from Nessa, which is Canes. And then later on, they took on the identity of the Hattians. And
okay.
The name Hittite comes from.
It's interesting how often this happens. That like, it's a bit like all those like people from the old world coming to America and becoming Americans. Like not exactly, but still a bit like always newcomers have taken up the mantle of the old and taken that civilization to new and interesting zones. Just interjecting to say that.
Or more geographically relevant, when the Seljuks came to Rum, and then they called themselves Rum Seljuks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so the Hittites, they are interesting for another reason. They spoke the oldest written down Indo-European language. So this is the oldest one that we know of this entire family tree.
Yep.
And the oldest one recorded in writing. Yeah. And their origins are a bit confusing because they somehow trace their ancestry back to a guy named Anita, who actually was a Hurrian ruler that conquered Cannes and burned down Hattusa, which is the actual Hittite capital later on. So it's a bit confusing as to how they connect themselves to him.
Yep.
But anyway, the real founder of the kingdom was a guy named Hattusili, which means the guy from Hattusa. and he conquers all of these city-states that you see here into a single kingdom. And through the gates of Cilicia, he then raids into Syria, where he comes into conflict with the kingdom of Yamchat.
Yep.
And basically, this guy was just a kind of like a pirate lord. Like, he went west, he went east, he went south, he went north, just to raid all of his neighbors.
Like, what did these guys do that earlier polities had not been able to do? What do you think?
Well, he united everything. I think that was his achievement. And like all these Mesopotamian and Syrian civilizations, for them, Anatolia was a wild country, so they didn't think that there could be any serious force living there. So one day this guy just forms his empire and builds a massive army and just marches south and takes all these more ancient powers by complete surprise.
All right.
Yeah. But then when he comes back to Hattusa, and then he prepares a raid west, these like Mesopotamian and Syrian powers unite and they raid into Hatti and burn down Hattusa. And Hattusili is somehow able to recover from that, and then the Hittites learn their lesson that they can't sustain themselves on raiding alone, and they start actually building a civilization.
I see.
Yeah. And here's something kind of moving. It's that was preserved in Hattusa's library. It was Hattusili's last words to his heir Mursili. And do you want to read it?
Yes. Let me step in. Also, let me start by saying that in Ottoman history too, there are these like last advice of Ertuğrul Gazi to Osman or something. So it's interesting. So here we go. In my family, nobody has followed my will so far. You are of me, Mursili. May you follow it. Respect the father's word. When you respect the father's word, eat bread and drink water. When the ripe manhood is in your heart, eat 2-3 times a day and keep yourself in shape based. But when old age is in your heart, get drunk and forget your father's word. You are my most noble subject. You shall respect the king's words. Eat bread and drink water. And Hattusha will stand tall, and there will then be peace in my land. But if you do not regard the king's word, you will not live long, and you will demise. Part of it is like just universal dad advice. I don't know if you get this too, but for me...
Yeah, it's very candid. It's very, like it's not royal, it's just genuinely good advice.
Yeah, for me, even like nearing on 40 years old, my father's always very interested, let's say, about if we eat the right amount of meals at the right time of the day. So it's like, I don't know if your father does this to you either, but like it just sounds universal and interesting in that respect. And I don't know, it's like very heartfelt. And I wonder how Hattusili's other children and grandchildren were. They must have been like ungrateful bastards.
Yeah,
and
that's why that's why he adopted his grandson and made him his heir, probably.
Yeah, true.
But what I really like about this is just how humanizing it is. Especially in the Bronze Age, you have many of these kings that style themselves as gods, as god kings. And here you have a guy that is just emphasizing that he and his son are human.
Oh, true.
And this was apparently true for the Hittite Old Kingdom, that the king was not seen as a living god, but as the first of the people, basically.
That's in that respect, they were far ahead of their time. I mean, compared to Egypt.
They were far ahead of their time in many aspects. were also the first civilization that invented diplomatic treaties, for example. And there is some controversy about this, but they were possibly also the first to melt iron.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So, and yeah, what did Mursili do with all this advice? Well, he became an absolute gigachat. Like I had to render this in the format of a green text because it fits so well.
Yeah, yeah.
You want to read this too?
Yeah, yeah. So after this amazing advice, Mursili destroys his grandfather's old enemy Yamkat. And I'm sorry, but with a name like Yamkat, you're just asking to get destroyed. You're just a villain. What sort of a name is that? And after that, he assembled a grand army and marched south all the way to Babylon for no discernible reason, sack Babylon, ending the entire old Babylonian Empire from Babylon to Zion, as they would say. And then he stole a great statue of Marduk from Babylon just for the heck of it. And he then gave the control of that region over to Kassites, who were probably an oppressed people living there. And then go back home, fuck off, do not elaborate. It all goes to show you have to have your 3 meals of bread per day, and then you'll be able to pull off stuff like this.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It's like such a bizarre episode. Like even ancient historians are puzzled as to why he did this. Like why did he have to go all the way down to Babylon like Alexander the Great? And why did he steal that statue? And
I mean, I got an idea why. And probably it was kind of like, I mean, if you notice, the grandfather probably did not get along well with his other children or grandchildren, whatever. So this guy, in order to consolidate his power, just made up a big like white elephant war project like this, basically. And you know, when you're ruling a land, if you pull something like that off, it kind of unites everybody around you. You kind of forget internal squabbles. And I mean, it's a very shrewd political move, not just for the laws, but also just like in terms of political survival. Maybe if he hadn't done this weird Giga Chad move, there would be some conspiracies against him or something. And like, I don't know.
yeah,
That's what it feels like to me, but
yeah, I think you have a good assessment of the situation, because like from the very beginning there were always political rivalries in the Hittite court between the dynasty that came from the south, from the mountainous regions, and the one from the lower regions. There always was this north-south conflict. So after Mursili, there was a line of lesser kings in a if you want to say it in a Tolkienian way.
Yeah.
So the power of the empire of the kingdom demised. So around 1500 BC, it became the Hittite Middle Kingdom, which was just reduced to regional power. And so regions like Kisuwatna, which we see here, became independent. They became their own states. And yeah, Kisuwatna was speaking.
You see, that's why you need to march to Babylon every now and then just do random Giga Chat stuff, or this happens.
Yeah. Imagine. There is some George W. Bush joke in here.
Or Benjamin Netanyahu joke, but rule number 1, let's not go there.
Yeah, so Kisuwatna, this was a multi-ethnic kingdom of Luwian and Hurrian people. And it later became a vassal to the Mitanni Kingdom, and then again to the Hittite New Kingdom.
How did these people hold the empire together? Did they have like roads or messenger? Like how did people get from point A to point B in those times?
The Hittites.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Hittites, but I know that the Assyrians around this time were already making like big road projects. And the Achaemenid Persians later on would expand this into the King's Road that went all the way from Miletus to Persepolis and such. So there were like beginning stages of road systems around this time, definitely. I'm not sure if this was also true in Anatolia though, but there were beginnings of that around the world. So I've been mentioning them a lot. Who were the Luwians? These were, they spoke a language related to that of the Hittites, and it's possible that these people descend from the Kura Araxes culture I mentioned all the way back in Hattusa.
Yeah.
And but even though they are not talked about a lot, they are very important because it's possible that they actually were the majority population of Anatolia during the Middle and Late Bronze Age. And that is reflected a lot in how much of their writing actually survives and how important their language became in the Hittite Empire itself.
I see. Once again, like inevitably, my mind goes to Turkish and Kurdish people making up the contemporary population of the Turkish Republic, but I guess it's just contemporary projection on my behalf.
Yeah, let's not get into that.
Yeah.
And they are notable because they also invented their very own writing system called Anatolian hieroglyphics.
These like pizza things, I love them so much. I've seen them in the museum and they're like so clunky and like cute. I really like this kind of writing. They look like pizza toppings if you look. There's like one that literally looks like a mushroom slice from any pizza you would get today. And like, yeah.
Yes, and originally it was thought that these hieroglyphics recorded the Hittite language, but it later turned out to actually be Luwian. And it's interesting how long-lived these hieroglyphics were because they were still being used into the early Iron Age even. And structure-wise they function very similarly to Egyptian hieroglyphics, but they use their own characters derived from Anatolian wildlife. See here some examples, like cow heads and deer heads.
The good old bull heads again.
Exactly.
Still a staple of Anatolian culture after thousands of years.
Yeah. And how were we even able to decipher this? Well, there were these king seals from lesser Luwian kings that were like subjects of the Hittite high king. And you see here, like in the middle, you see the hieroglyphics, and around this ring in cuneiform, which says the same thing. So that's how we were able to decipher these things.
In our good friend Trader Explainer's channel, he has a section describing exactly this relic. And
exactly, like when he uploaded that video this week, I was like, motherfucker,
Well, I think these things come in phases, like, so I mean, we were all influenced by the same thing in the air, let me say.
Yeah. You think we're going through a Bronze Age phase? I've been seeing a lot of Bronze Age memes lately.
Yeah, because I mean, like other subjects about contemporary history, like Rome and stuff, they kind of become oversaturated. So, it would kind of make sense. I don't know.
Yes. So these are the Luwians, and here this is Mitanni. This was a kingdom founded by Hurrian people in northern Mesopotamia. And as you can see, it spread all the way into southern Anatolia and into the Levant. And what makes them fascinating is that over time, their ruling class became dominated by Indo-Aryan people. And what Indo-Aryan in a linguistic context is like people that spoke a language that today you can only find in India. And how do we know that this was the ruling class? It's because many Mitanni words relate to nobility and warfare. For example, the Mitanni word for chariots, I think it's Mariwanda. These are almost identical to the two Indic words you find in languages like Sanskrit.
Oh, that's very interesting. Interestingly, Mitanni is another one of those civilizations in which contemporary Kurdish nationalists see as a possible ancestor.
Yeah, like I said, linguistically, there's not much of a basis there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, Hurrian is an isolated language, and later on Indo-Aryan, that's a completely different branch from the Kurdish language in the Indo-European family tree.
I see that these people were also pen pals with this very famous pharaoh, Akhenaten, the alien guy with the elongated head, right?
Yeah, exactly. We know a lot about the Mitanni kings because first they were a conflict, later on they married into the Egyptian nobility, like these typical marriage pacts. And so we have these letters between King Tushratta of Mitanni and Pharaoh Akhenaten.
Yep.
And it's generally just about like, can you send me gold for this and that, and I will give you statues for this and that, like mostly trade pacts and such. But it is interesting that these people were contemporary.
Yeah. Akhenaten is a whole other subject. Like, I wish I knew more about him, though, to be honest.
Yeah, he is a very fascinating and enigmatic figure. Like, he was the son of Amenophis III. His original name was Amenophis IV. Then he dedicated himself and his worship solely to Aten, this god, and said it's still being debated if he was being a true monotheist or just a monolaterist. With the latter means that he acknowledges the existence of other gods, but thinks that Aten was the only one worthy of worship.
I don't know.
Yeah, but it is very fascinating, and of course also in discussions about like where monotheism comes from and how much of an influence this had on early Judaism, but that's for a whole other.
Yeah. Let's can that for now.
Just a complete tangent. So Mitanni was conquered by the Assyrians. You see, Assur, Assur and Nineveh were originally subjects of the Mitanni, but then those rose up and became the Middle Assyrian Kingdom, which started to conquer Mitanni itself in the east. And in the west, Mitanni was overpowered by the Hittite New Kingdom, which was founded around 1430 BCE by King Tudaliya.
Yep.
And under this new kingdom, the office of king becomes like more defined as a pharaoh-like figure, so more similar to a god king. But it also becomes a bit more regulated because Tudaliya establishes this Panku Council, which is sort of like a parliament of aristocrats that have also an influence on the king. So
and I see this thing: violent crimes were no longer punished with more violence.
Yes.
So
yeah, we have a lot of legal codes from the Hittites, and we can see an important development throughout their time that as time wore on, major crimes were no longer being punished with executions, but instead just fines.
So they became modern in
a sense, yeah. And so they defeat Mitanni, they reintegrate Kisuwatna, and they also expand into Western Anatolia. And under Shupiliuluma the First, they also
know this name. Yeah.
They also expand into Syria, and they conquer even Cyprus. And here I have a map of this new kingdom.
It's interesting. They must have had a naval power too in order to do that then.
Yes, they did under at least Shupiliuluma. And yeah, some people also extend this map all the way into the west, but it's more likely that these western kingdoms were like vassals.
Yeah, debatable.
Yeah. So, and of course, with this expansion into Syria, here also the reconstructed walls of Hattusa around this time. So yeah, with this expansion into Syria, the Hittites come into conflict with Egypt because Ramesses II, their famous Ramses,
Uh-huh.
he wants to conquer all of the Levant. The Hittites don't want him to do that. They have a lot of battles, among them the famous Battle of Kadesh, which was the very first pitched battle. So the first battle where two armies agreed to fight on this spot.
Yep.
And yeah, like Ramses often wins these fights or they result in a draw, but he's unable to effectively besiege all these cities, like Kadesh, Ugarit, Aleppo.
Yeah. I mean, looks like both empires were kind of stretching their natural limits at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So
And sorry, at these times, you always have to remember that there would be a season to make war. And after that, everybody would go back and they would have to farm. So it's not like today's wars where like you can carry soldiers all over the place and like soldiery was not as dedicated a task. Let me just say that much.
exactly. So basically, these two, so Ramses II and Hattusili III, they realize there is no end to this war. So they sign the oldest known peace treaty in history. And the cool thing about this is that this peace treaty, there is a Hittite version of this written in cuneiform and an Egyptian version of this written in hieroglyphics.
I mean, this doubtlessly helped the deciphery of hieroglyphics, I guess.
It did, because it is very valuable because the Hittite language and cuneiform writing preserves vocals, and Egyptian hieroglyphics don't. So this has helped in some way deciphering what the vocals would have been of the Egyptian language.
Yeah. Where is this tablet being kept at the moment?
At the Archaeological Museum in Istanbul.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And yeah, there is also a copy of this in the UN headquarters.
Yeah, because I remember something like this. Like it was kind of like really a big deal as like the first treaty and like one of the most important documents on the path along world peace, let's say. So yeah.
So here's the Ramses trying to besiege the Hittite city of Dapur, which failed.
But in the movie they won. It's like,
which movie?
No, this is like a movie, like kind of propaganda spin on the things.
Yeah, you're right. There, like Ramses in his own record says, like his campaigns in the Levant were a success, and the Hittites say they were a failure for him, and this Rashomon style storytelling.
Yeah.
What I find interesting here is like general wisdom is that in the Bronze Age you did not yet have cavalry. Instead, you only had chariots. But in this image, you can see this here. You can see that these are Hittites, and you can see a Hittite warrior riding a horse. So at least some form of horseback riding was already known by this time.
Was he riding that horse, or is he just like falling and the horse has run away from its chariot, basically? Another sign of humiliation.
You can clearly see him sitting on the horse. Don't you see where my mouse is pointing?
Oh yeah, but it's that little hieroglyph. Is that what you're pointing at, or?
Oh, don't you see my mouse pointer? Here, right next to the castle thing.
Oh yeah, there I see it. Okay, your mouse pointer is off for some reason. Okay, but okay. I do see the guy riding the horse now. Yes, I can't unsee it now.
Yeah. So that's a little interesting bit from history that you can learn just from images.
Well, I'll tell you another personal story about this very image, actually. There's a very famous and kind of extremely pugnacious Armenian intellectual, let us say, who's like a very eccentric and somewhat controversial figure, but in a good way. And well, I won't name him, but if you know, he's particularly famous in Turkey. In one of his podcasts, he was saying words to the effect that this area of the world did not have horses. The Egyptians did not have horses. I'm not talking about chariots. Like, he was claiming they did not have horses. And he was like kind of pushing his claim snidely to hint that, oh, these Turkic invaders brought them over. But like I remember like in the comments, this thing is even inscribed on a goddamn temple. So yeah, I mean, they did have horses. So I pointed that out in the comment section of one of his videos, and like he went through a lot of mental gymnastics trying to backpedal and stuff. But yeah, that's just an interesting memory.
It is true that the Egyptian Old and Middle Kingdom did not have horses, but these were brought over into Egypt during the Hyksos invasion. Semitic-speaking people conquered Lower Egypt, and yeah, it's thought that they brought chariots and horses into Egypt, but that was already around the 1600s BCE, so long before this time here.
I see.
Yeah. So the New Kingdom, like Ramses is from the New Kingdom, he definitely rode the chariot.
Oh, and who can forget the chariot race scene from Prince of Egypt, by the way, that amazing animated film.
Yeah, same pharaoh actually.
Yeah.
The battle of, like, have you watched the Exodus movie by Ridley Scott? They actually have the Battle of Kadesh at the beginning.
Unfortunately, I haven't.
Yeah, it's not that good. You don't have to watch it, but that's just a tidbit. I wanted to mention that this battle has been shown in movies actually.
Alrighty.
Yeah. So closing out on Hittites, let's talk a little bit about their mythology and religion. And they were highly syncretic. They basically took the gods of every culture they came across and tried to incorporate that into their mythology. So you have this wild mix of Mesopotamian, Hurrian, and Hattian deities. Yeah. For example, the 12 gods of the underworld were synonymous with the Anunnaki from Sumerian mythology.
Yeah.
And yeah,
that's very like fascinating. How much do we know about their religion? Like, we probably only have the names of their gods, right?
For some gods, but Hattusa had its own library.
Yeah.
There are various tablets and written sources that record actually a lot about the religious life of the Hittites. And preserved in that library was even a Hittite copy of the Gilgamesh epic. Which actually has helped archaeologists decipher some things of the original Sumerian text.
That's interesting.
And even filled out some missing parts. So they were intimately familiar with Mesopotamian mythology.
And this bit about the underworld gods living in pits, and like how did that go? Did people throw stuff in pits to sacrifice to them, basically?
Well, pits is a bit it's a hole, like it's a dent in the ground. It's not not like in 300 where they have this hole. It was just like they dug a little pit in the ground, the priests or kings, and in there they stood and sacrificed the pig or something. And that's they asked the nature deity, like the gods of the underworld were for them nature deities. They literally lived in the ground.
I see.
And so they asked them for help that way. Yeah, there is an interesting motive throughout all of Hittite mythology, which is that most problems are caused by male deities because they feel slighted or because they're angry at something, and then it often has to be fixed by a female deity.
This is very true to real life most times.
Yeah. And on that note, there is a very interesting link between Hittite and Greek mythology. Which is that in Greek mythology you have all of these like generations of gods. First there's Uranus, he is overthrown by Cronus, and Cronus is overthrown by Zeus. And this entire genealogy actually traces itself back to the Hittites. Like in Hittite mythology, there was the sky god Anu in the beginning.
Yep.
And he had his testicles bitten off by his son Kumarbi.
Ouch.
And that is very similar to how Uranos in Greek mythology was castrated by Cronus. And then
there's something very Freudian in this, like.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and yeah, actually Kumarbi became pregnant in his mouth from Anu's testicles, and yeah.
So he was like a gastric brooding frog.
Yeah, and that is how Teshub, the storm god, was born from Kumarbi's split skull, which is similar to how Athena was born.
I mean, I'm going to avoid making a joke about skull F wording here, but okay, yeah.
Divine blowjob.
Yes.
So after Teshub was born, Kumarbi was afraid of him because he knew Teshub would do the same thing that he did to his father. So he tried to eat him, and instead he was given a rock to bite into, and the same thing happens between Cronus and Zeus. And after Zeus overthrows Cronus, he banishes the Titans into Tartarus, into the underworld. And literally the same things happen in Hittite mythology, where the children of Kumarbi overthrow the Anunnaki and banish them into the underworld.
Well, as the great filmmaker George Lucas says, it's like poetry, it rhymes.
Yes. So, yeah. And there's also the episode where Teshub slays Iluyanka, which is this draconic giant serpent. And of course, the same thing happens between Zeus and Typhon, but also in Ugaritic and Mesopotamian mythology, and even in the Bible with God and the Leviathan.
That's really curious how I really wonder, like, the methods of transfer which kind of changed these things and carried them over from different groups of people, and like.
I think there must have been a direct link, because we know that the Hittites had contact with the Proto-Greeks.
Yeah, probably. And I mean, all the great civilizations effectively like do their religion as a fan fiction of pre-existing religions. So, I mean, I don't know what the Greeks were up to in this epoch of history, but they were probably listening to these legends and becoming really inspired, and like they were saying, I could do something like that, and way it goes.
Yeah, and even some like mythological figures, like you see here, this is a chimera that was found at Hattusa. And you see it has a lion for a head, it has a lion head, it has a human head, and a snake for a tail.
Yeah, exactly like Bellerophon's chimera.
Yeah, well, although in that one the second head is like, I think, a goat.
Yeah, but it's still close enough for government work.
And let me go here. You also see like these Hittite sphinxes with wings. The original sphinx in Egypt, of course, doesn't have wings. I think this is the first depiction of winged sphinx, and this, of course, becomes the archetype for the Greek sphinx, the one that Oedipus his questions, its riddle on his way to Thebes.
Yeah, I mean, these particular statues in Hittite gates, I always found so haunting. They're hollow eyes. They probably had like bright marble bits as eyes, but they're just off. Like one of those images that have always stayed with me.
They're very beautiful too. Yeah. And
all right. So, do you think we've finished covering all of Hittite history?
With this last image, because after that we come to what happened in Western Anatolia around this time.
Oh, all right. So I suggest maybe calling it an end to our first episode here, and thanks to everyone who listened so far. This is Shupiluluma's pond chamber. You mean tomb chamber, or?
No, this is a chamber right next to an artificial pond.
Okay.
Water. And as you can see here, it's written in Luwian hieroglyphs. So even the court at this time wasn't talking in Hittite anymore, but in Luwian.
Yeah, I mean, it's pragmatism, I think.
Yeah.
Also, what were these things saying? Like, this is a nice pond. I like swimming in it, or things like this.
We tried to reach you about your chariot's extended warranty. No, but it records his achievements in war. So like his like I conquered this bit and that bit, and yeah, which
Perfect reading for a time at the local pool.
Yeah, which becomes a bit ironic because Shupiluluma was the second, he was the last Hittite king.
Ah,
Yeah, not after him, it all collapsed for reasons that we will come to in the next part.
all right, all right. So any last messages as we close this first episode? Like, I just have to say, I'm like so blown away by the level of research you've put into this, and I think it's going to take us 3 episodes to get through the whole thing. I'm just bear with us, people, and if you listened this far, please leave a comment and please consider supporting us on our respective Patreons. What do you have to say, TK?
Well, let me give you an idea of what is in the future. We will talk about what's happening in Western Anatolia with the Mycenaean Greeks and the Trojan War, Troy, and also about how this entire Bronze Age world came down crashing.
Yeah,
And
it all ends tonight.
Yeah, and yeah, maybe I will actually edit this all into one video if we record it tomorrow already.
All right, all right. Let's see how it goes. It's up to you.
Yes. Yeah, and I hope everyone enjoyed this. I hope the comment section looks civil. I hope you all check out Memo's OnlyFans. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, see you next time.
Yep. Have a nice day, everybody. And thanks to you once more. See you either in a little bit or in episode 2. Goodbye from me. Ciao.
Bye.